Welcome back to America Decides. Michigan Democratic Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist has officially entered the crowded race to be the state's next governor. I spoke with him yesterday about why, outside of normal human ambition, he wants the job.
I am an engineer by training. I've spent my whole career fixing broken systems and making them work better for people. And in my time as lieutenant governor, working alongside Governor Whitmer, I've been to all 83 counties multiple times. And I've learned about what's important to Michiganders, the things they want fixed, the problems they want solved. And I'm a problem solver who can fix it because I solve problems, don't create them. And in this moment, that's what we need. So I'm running for governor to make Michigan the best place to have an idea, to be, to stay, and succeed.
What's the biggest problem that needs to be solved?
When I talk with Michiganders across those 83 counties, I hear about housing and healthcare, mental health. I've spent my time now as lieutenant governor delivering hundreds of millions of dollars and bringing 60,000 new housing units online because of my efforts. And on healthcare and mental health, I've created a program called the Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinics that have led to 40% increases in capacity for some of our solution providers so that kids can get the help they need to not have suicidal ideation. Veterans can get the help they need to be supported and know that they're not alone. And overall, we can increase our well-being in Michigan.
So there'll be a Democratic primary. Why are you better for Michigan Democrats than Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson or Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson?
I'm the only candidate in this race who has delivered on results of things that matter to people all across Michigan, whether it is housing and healthcare, like I mentioned, whether it's things like making our economy more diverse and enabling it to grow through things like the Michigan Innovation Fund that I created. I'm a recovering entrepreneur twice over, Major. I've started and sold 2 technology companies. I remember trying to raise money for my tech business in the early 2000s. Well, now the Michigan Innovation Fund will help those founders be able to raise their money in Michigan so they can keep their headquarters in the state of Michigan. No other candidate in this primary have delivered results like that to grow our economy and diversify it.
Lieutenant Governor, as you well know, roughly 45% of a national election vote in Michigan comes from 4 counties: Wayne County, Oakland County, Macomb County, Kent County. In the last election, either by raw vote or percentage, Kamala Harris lost ground in all 4 of those counties. What was her problem? What is the problem with the Democratic Party in swing states?
Well, those certainly are population centers. And in those population centers, you have to get to know people and build those relationships. I've spent significant amounts of time in each one of those counties because I've spent significant time in every county in Michigan, all 83 of them. And in going there and listening to people, they know that I have their priorities in mind, not my own. So what my focus is going forward is using those relationships to understand what's most important and then solving the problems. I hear about challenges, for example, with things like internet access in the rural parts of Kent County. Well, I've delivered on connecting those folks to the internet. People want to see that Democrats are results-oriented problem solvers, and I'm a results-oriented problem solver as an engineer. So I think people recognizing that we see that change needs to happen, and that we have the capacity and the desire to make it happen. I'm on fire to do that, and that's why I want to be the next governor.
What was your assessment, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, of Democrats in the House chamber during President Trump's speech to a joint session last week?
I'll tell you my assessment of the speech because I did watch it in real time, and I was proud of Senator Slotkin for responding downriver from Wyandotte, Michigan. My assessment was that I saw a lot of chaos and destructive stuff coming toward the state of Michigan. The tariffs are going to set fire to people's paychecks. They're going to set fire to businesses' balance sheets. They're going to set fire to the bottom lines of communities. You know, the cuts to Medicaid that are going to come from that policy agenda would lead to people like my grandma dying 5 years earlier because she spent the last 10 years of her life in a skilled nursing facility. That speech had a lot of things that were problematic for the people of Michigan. My dad was a federal worker who would have been under attack from Elon Musk in the Department of Defense and would have made the Stryker Brigade combat vehicle less safe. So what I heard was a president who was coming at Michigan and not with our best interests at heart. But my job as governor is going to be to protect, promote, and advance the interests of my state. And I'll do that forcefully. And, you know, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. I'll be ready to take them on as well.
As you looked at Democrats in the various means of protesting during that speech, did you find something that you wanted to applaud and things that made you cringe?
Again, what matters is that the response coming from Michigan that I'll focus on is making sure that the people of Michigan know, one, where the threats are coming from. You know, the threats to those tens of thousands of federal workers here that are doing important work, whether for the National Forest Service or National Park Service, the folks in the Army Corps who are taking care of our Great Lakes. You know, I want to make sure they know that we have a government that's allied with them. And that's what I'm going to focus on.
As Lieutenant Governor, you led two statewide task forces, one on racial disparities during COVID, one on jail and pretrial incarceration. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, do you feel that those issues which got prominent attention during COVID and during the Biden administration are not only moving to the back burner, but in many respects might be targets of the Trump administration?
Well, I certainly worked to keep people alive during COVID. I lost 28 people in my life to COVID-19, and people were dying all across the state of Michigan. But of those 23 neighborhood health centers that are the ongoing legacy of that work, more than half of them are in rural communities that are not actually majority people of color. So I think that, if we want to see people alive, if they want to have an administration that wants to focus on people living, then I think they'll focus on supporting those efforts. But I do worry that the Trump administration really has a target on the backs of so many important things we've made progress on in the state of Michigan. I think about those auto suppliers, again, in Metro Detroit, who don't know how to plan for their next quarter because they don't know what's going to happen with this tariff situation and the recklessness and the sloppiness with which it's been proposed and with which it could be implemented. So I think this administration certainly has dangerous things in mind for the state of Michigan, but I'm going to protect them as their governor.
Your mother worked for General Motors. When you hear President Trump say we're going to have more auto plants than ever before and we're going to be wealthier than we've ever been because of tariffs, what do you think or say about that?
The proof's in the pudding. I'm an engineer. I care about the how and to make sure things actually work. And the way these tariffs have been sloppily proposed, I don't have any confidence in this president to be able to deliver on anything he says. I heard a state of the state that had a lot of things that weren't true. But we're going to focus on building real things in Michigan. And again, I'm an engineer. I'm about the truth. I'm about results. I'm about actually getting things done, not just talking trash. And so, I look forward to being able to be the kind of governor who can protect people, but also make progress.
Michigan's Democratic Lieutenant Governor, Garlin Gilchrist. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.